Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a seat, pull up a chair. Let's carve a dragon. Today I finished carving the dragon design for the Fellowship of the Gnome series, and I think he turned out pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. We've got the Danish oil, black walnut Danish oil, and paste finishing wax, as well as the painted version is a red dragon. You can paint him green, you can paint whatever you want to. But today we're going to carve this figure for our Fellowship of the Gnome. We've already done the ranger and the wizard and the knight, and now we're going to have a dragon that's going to sit alongside him and just look fantastic. So let's flip the camera around and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Here be dragons. So I have worked for a little bit to figure out the right type of dragon for what design I wanted to do that would work. This guy here was one of the failed attempts. I went with a 6-inch tall on this guy, and he was too tall, and that took the proportions off on the bottom a little bit, so the feet just didn't quite, they weren't working with where they were at. I liked the tail I did, but it just weren't working. So I went a shorter route. I brought the legs down, and I put the tail wing straight up to try to make it easier. I'm trying to simplify the carving, because the goal here is for this carving to be like the first advanced style whittling someone does after 1x1s. I consider all the 1x1 tutorials that we've done as beginner tutorials, and I want this to be the first step past beginner, where someone starts to do something a little bit more advanced. You can see we got some nice curvature to our cuts here on the wings, but it really adds a lot of detail, and really it makes a difference in the carving, and it looks just beautiful to do. So we're going to start doing that kind of thing, and to do that we're going to use tools outside of a knife today. We're going to use specifically the two tools I tell people to get past knives, which is a V tool and a U-shaped gouge. Now, you don't have to go full U, which I would consider number 11. This is a number 8. And you can see it's got a good scoop on it, but not too deep. You can use number 8, number 9, number 11, something with a good scoop on it. Number 8, I would say, would be the minimum I would use for this, but anything in that range should work. This is a very deep V gouge, and I like that, so we're going to use that to great effect today too. Those are, like I say, are the two tools I tell people to get outside of a knife, but I'm also going to show you some different things we can do with different styles of knives. So I always use this Beckwith forged knife. I like this. Is probably my number 1 used knife. We're going to do most of the carving with that, but I'm going to show you how to make great detail work, how to make these curved lines easy, not using a gouge, with a detail knife. So if you have this detail knife but you don't have a gouge, we're going to show you how to do little curves like that with a thin blade like this with this detail knife. So that's why this detail knife is out right now. I love this Badger State blade specifically for how short this blade is from spine to cutting edge. How short it is allows you to do really nice curved cuts where you can kind of swoop in and out, like when you're carving with the wood grain, you know, and just get smooth cuts. On this side here, I'd go this direction here, and you can kind of swoop in and out like that to get really smooth cuts that you might not be able to get with a wider blade knife, right? I'm also going to show you how, on using a 2-inch wide block, how I might not always want to use my regular knife, because you'll notice the blade doesn't go quite all the way across it. But I do have this larger rough out knife. This is an OCC Tools knife, and that blade width goes absolutely across the whole thing, making it a little bit easier to utilize on larger 2x2 blocks. So I want to show you why that's good. And I'm also going to show you a little bit of use of this and how I use this to great effect for removing a lot of wood quickly, and we'll go over that as well. So that's why the other tools are out, but the tools you absolutely need are just going to be a V tool, a gouge, and a knife. If you want to get by without the gouge, you can do that and just use a detail blade if you've got one that's got a pretty short profile for doing those curves right there. If you don't want to use a V tool, you could probably get by without that too and just have a rough out knife. You wouldn't be able to do some of the detail here on the wings, but that should be the only limitation that you really have. I'm going to use that V tool for really digging down deep in here and setting in some of these lines on the feet and whatnot. So we'll use that, like those little hashes in the head. I'll use the V tool for that, but you can just do V cuts with the knife. With the V tool, it just makes things easier on you. You don't have to have it. But like I said, this is going to be a little bit past a beginner tutorial, using more tools and showing you what all you can do with them and why it's beneficial to have them. Now, with all of that said, let's talk about our measurements. So I've got it started drawn out here just a little bit. Now, from the top to bottom, first we talk about today, we're doing this on a 5-inch block. Okay, it is 5 inches tall, and this is a 2x2 block. So it's 2 inches wide, 2 inches deep. I started, like I said, on a 6-inch. I decided that wasn't quite the right size. A 5-inch allows our proportions to be right for our front legs and our hind legs. And we'll do the wings in the back. And we'll draw those in as we get further into this. But for start, the bottom of the chin here, right here is where the chin's going to be, the head's going to be. He's going to be in this orientation like so, right like that. The bottom of the chin is going to be about 1 1/4 inches down from the top. The middle of the stomach here is about 3 inches in. So if you draw a line here, then a line for the middle of the stomach about 3 inches in, we're going to come in between 7/8 and 3/4 of an inch to the back of the chin, and then you're just going to kind of connect that down. And I want to round that off there as you come back down. And the top of the foot is about 5/8 inches up, and then just kind of come down to it a little bit. And then just, a 1/2 inch back from that, we're going to draw a second foot and then hind leg in. And that is going to come up, that back of that hind leg is going to come up at about 1.5 inches up. Okay. So those are just a basic drawings in, and we're going to eliminate a lot of this as we go in. But the biggest thing is taking out this wood here and here. And if you're accustomed to 1x1s, that's a lot of wood to take out. On this design, you're going to be able to do so much more than I did here. I wanted to keep this simple. So the dragons you do, if you think of more ways to accentuate the face and you want to add nostrils and you want to add more details, make it more complicated, absolutely do that. I wanted to keep him relatively simple because I want people to look at him and think, I could do that too. That's the goal here, okay? I want people to be thinking for their first time of doing a larger carving that, yep, I can add a dragon in to my party of gnomes and do pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and start with this. And I'm going to start with my my rough-out knife, and we're just going to start setting in this line here. And to help me out here, I could just draw a line straight across here to mark out where that middle of that stomach is. And you can see right there, middle of the stomach. And then same thing, continue that line over for the head maybe around here. So I know, okay, that's the section I need to take out. For the top of the head, also, it might help you out to draw a line down the middle of the carving to help you keep that head lined up as we start removing material off the left and right, which we'll do at some point. So putting that in now might help you out if you need help maintain yourself centered. So let's go ahead and start by putting in stop cuts right here in the corners and then carving up to it. So now we're going to be setting that in, same spot on the other side, and then carving up to it, taking that out. Again, we're just taking a lot of wood out here. So it's going to take some time, is all there is to it. And start carving up and chipping it out. Now you can use this knife here and you can carve all of this out. It's time consuming, but that'll enable you to keep this knife only. I want to show you other ways you can take all this wood out, because as you get more tools, you can save yourself a lot of time. So let's say that I got this stop cut here set in completely, right? Now, that's where this bigger knife can come in handy. It allows me to get more reach and more bite across there as I do this. So a bigger knife, larger, like longer blade, absolutely beneficial. That's where I wanted to show you that. The other thing is a good skew like this. This is a flat gouge, a flat chisel. It's a number 3. It doesn't have a very steep incline. Look at that. But it is about 1 inch wide. I use this, yeah, it's 1 inch wide. I use this number 3, 1 inch wide number 3 all the time. I cannot express, I mean, it is one of the number 1 tools I use past a V-tool and a gouge. And that's just me. It might not be for you. But this right here, taking out all this wood here, it can be so easy and so much quicker and so much easier on my hands just by that right there. And then pushing in to knock it out. And I can get a lot more wood out much more quickly than the knife. Well, that's not the right way to say it. It's not more quickly. It is significantly less work on my hands, though. My hands are not as young as they used to be. And this, to me, is a little bit easier. It's not as difficult. I'm not using as much muscle to do it. It's less force. I do have more control, I think, over it this way. With a knife, it can be awkward sometimes because it's a wide piece of wood. And so carving with this chisel can be significantly easier. Now, it does not make it look pretty. You can see already that line's looking terrible. We're going to clean that up. This chin is already lower than we need it to be, and we can easily work that up and clean it up. So I'm not worried about how dirty it looks. We just have a lot of wood to take out, and this makes that a little bit easier. So that's what I wanted to show you while we take this out. You don't have to use a knife. You can use a tool like this and just make it a little bit easier on yourself. And there's going to be another spot too where we're going to take a lot of wood off, because we're going to bring the left and right sides in, on the sides of the head, in a considerable amount. You can see there's a lot of wood to remove on the left and right sides there as we work on this dragon here. So we're going to be taking a lot out on that too. And that is it's work. You know, whereas a 1x1 tutorial, you aren't removing as much wood, so it's not as much work. You can just get a lot done rather quickly sometimes when you sit down and start doing a carving. But a larger carving on a 2x2 can be a lot of work, especially when you start doing more depth in your characters, right? If I'm carving like that, those little dwarves back there in the background, those are on 2x2s, but they're still pretty full. They're not being thinned out like this dragon head is. And so you're not taking out a whole lot of wood. So one of those doesn't take me that long to do. But this dragon, it's going to take a bit longer because we have a lot of wood to remove. And we're just taking out a lot of wood. There we go. Yeah, so we're starting to get it. And you can see we still got a little more to get in there to get in that corner. But that's where I can go back over here, now that I've gotten a lot of that stuff out, and I can start carving in there with the knife now. And it's not as hard to do because we got a lot of that work out. So it's a little bit easier to get in there now than it might have been. And I can clean that up. Not clean up all the way, but I can clean up a little bit. And you can see that we've gotten that depth out there now. Easy to finish that off a little bit with the knife. Now we've gotten most of the hard work done. Okay? So that's step one right there. Now we can work on doing the same thing kind of right here above those toes there. So let's do a stop cut right here. We're going to kind of come in at an angle right there. You see how that angle goes in and up right there? We're going to do in right like so. And then kind of carve up to it. Same thing over here. And like so. And carve up to it. And then we're just going to try to carve that right on over. All the way across. To set in those feet. I don't have to do this step now. I could wait and not go all the way across it because I want to thin things out a little bit in the sides. I want to thin things out on this side. I just find this easier to do this section here right now. For me, your mileage might vary. You can see the shape and carve it however you want to. Something to always keep in mind is you don't have to do things the way that I show you. You can do it however you'd like to. But I'm just going to make sure I give you an option for how to do the things that we're doing. Okay. Also, I want to point out, if you like this kind of content, if you've been enjoying the series so far, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. Significantly appreciate it, because I'm trying to spread the channel as much as I can, get as many people involved in wood carving as I can. I've been posting a lot of pictures to Reddit lately because I think that this series in particular has a lot of appeal to a lot of different groups that might not be wood carving already. And I want to get more people into wood carving. Our community is vibrant and wonderful, and I just want to spread it as much as I can. So, all right, so we got a little bit of work done there. A little bit more to do right here, maybe in the middle. And right now we're just roughing in the general shape. We're not putting detail in yet. We're just trying to get the rough general shape of our dragon in, and then we can worry about adding more detail and thinning things out later. So that is the rough general shape of our dragon. so far. So let's start working on thinning out the head here, because we want to thin him out to about yay thick, right? So I'm going to mark that with a pencil. And that is about 1/4 inch on each side, roughly. Let's take a look with a tape measure. It's about 1/2 inch. About 1/2 inch on each side. So we're going to take out about 1/2 inch. And then as we come down, we're going to thin it out till about we get to the belly right here, our belly line. And that's about where we're going to reach the outside edge. You have a big, thick belly. We're going to come right down to there. And we're just going to thin them out up to that point. And just kind of take that section here off all the way up. So that's what we're going to do. So from the belly all the way down. And you can do this however you want to. You can use paring cuts and come in and try to take one side and then swap over and try to do the other. Like that. If this is easier for you, do it this way. I find that I can wear folks out, and not everybody's accustomed to or used to that paring cut, and so that paring cut can be tiresome for their hands. If that's the case, again, this number 3 here is a fantastic vehicle for this. So I got this carving mat here. I can hold the carving like this and start up here, and I can just push down, and I can get a lot of wood off rather quickly and a little bit easier than a paring cut. It's not taking as much force to do, and you can see I'm getting a lot of wood off rather quickly. So when you're doing larger carvings like this, it's a lot of wood to take off, to remove, and figuring out the right way to do that so the least amount of physical work is usually what we're trying to do. How do I do that without wearing myself out completely? Because we still got a good bit of wood to remove to get down to where we're going. Getting there. A lot of big chunks right now. Oh, and they're all over my lap. Something else I want to point out too is that, what was I going to say? When it comes to these big carvings, just know that it's a lot of work to do the larger ones as compared to the smaller ones. And it's all like involved in the amount of wood you're taking off. Because you can scale a lot of these designs up, like the 1x1x3s for like this little Ranger there. He would scale up to a 2x2x6 relatively easy. So you can absolutely do him on that and to keep the proportions exactly like they are. And you'll be able to do that larger guy. I'm starting to bite off more there than I wanted, but that's okay. I think that worked out. I find that I don't know what to say all the time whenever I'm putting a lot of force into something, a lot of exertion. I kind of lose my train of thought. So we got that side of the head done pretty well. That was just a lot of work. So let's go ahead and do the other side. And I might speed this process up because you know what you're doing. It's just work to get it done. All right. So we have, I wound up with more chips in my lap, many chips in my lap as I've got up here on the table. We have got the bulk of that pulled out. We've probably made that face a little bit thinner than this other guy. Oh, no, it's about the same, isn't it? It's about the same. At any rate, you can take a look at the overlay right here, and that's the carving we're working on right now. But that's doing pretty darn well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in on the sides here as well, up on the front. It's the front feet. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we mark out on both sides where that back foot and heel is going to be. So this back foot is going to come up. I'm going to redraw this a bit. I think it's 5/8 of an inch up for the top of the foot on the front here. Let's see here. How far back are we? We are 3/4 of an inch back for the front of that foot. And then same height, coming back. And then we're going to carve that up and around for that back leg. Now the wings are going to come back down here behind it, as you can see on the overlay and whatnot. So we're going to be able to do that. And we can bring those wings back in here as much. We can have those wings come right back into here if we want to and hide those back legs, because the back legs can be hard for folks. So I don't want to have to complicate things. We want to keep this easy and simple. So to help myself out, I'm going to try to lightly draw this line. That's where the front of the foot's going to go. And then this is the height for that leg right here, right about. That transfer right? I could just measure it. Johnny, what are you trying to pull? All right, that is 1 3/4 inch. If I wouldn't have gotten it right, 1 3/4 inch. Absolutely good. Okay, so our back foot is going to come up to about the same height as the other side. Then we come back a little bit and we bring that leg up like so. So that incline could be a bit better, like that. That's fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to carve that in, and we're going to start removing things from here down, kind of sloping from right here at the belly all the way down to the bottom of the feet, so we can put some definition to these back feet here. And you can see on the overlay and on this guy here how that works and what I'm talking about. I'm talking about bringing that wood in here to expose the hind legs and thin out those front feet right there. So that's what we're going to work on doing right now. So to do that, the tape measure aside, I'm going to carve this line here and set this line in. Now I'm going to put a lot of pressure in, and I'm going to come straight in. So straight in on the plane, and I'm going to carve it around like I'm drawing with a pin down to here and then over and down. And I'm going to do it down here on the craft mat. And I'm just going to press that blade in and just draw with it. And I'm drawing down towards the craft mat so that if I lose my grip or something like that and come out and slip, it just goes right down into the craft mat. I got my fingers out of the way while I do this. Easy peasy. And when you get to the bottom, you can just roll it over rather than putting it down, letting it slip out, and then having the blade do something crazy. And you can see the depth I got right there. I'm going fairly deep. I want to make sure that we get some good depth on this. And we can redraw this line as we go. But I want to get some good depth on this because I want these feet to be freed out. The more depth I get on it right now, drawing this out properly, the easier it's going to be to break those things free as I'm carving out these chips. The other thing is, you can see those little lines right here on this one. That's where when I was carving this out, the tip of the knife rubbed in there, right? So that's what you want to avoid as we're doing this. We want to, as we start to carve this out, we want that tip of that knife blade to ride right up against that cut, but not into the foot. And that's what you're working at getting better at. As you can see, I'm not perfect at it yet either. I'm still working at it, still learning, and we're still finding shapes that we want to do. But that's what we're working on doing right. So I'm going to bring that blade in, and I'm just going to come at an angle like so as I go into this, and just try to bring it down maybe to that top of that foot and free that out. And you see I didn't do too bad right there. We got some good depth in on that, and that worked out. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. When I say thing, I'm just going to bring out the rest of that wood. I'm going to pull that blade back in as I come down and pop the rest of that out. Let's take off that bottom half of the foot here. And like I said, we're just going to be taking out some depth on there to provide the depth we need to show off those back legs. We can start to do that in the front here. Right up to those feet there. And you can see, like, I'm doing a stop cut there. It's coming past the foot, and that's okay because I can just ship that off right like so if I want to. We're making a little bit of progress there. You can see it's starting to show. We'll do some more here. Bringing that knife blade right up to that edge. And it didn't cut out, so I need to free the rest of this. So I'm going to try to retrace and refollow that line. And did it already come out? pretty close. There we go. And if you got sloped in a little more than you need to, that's actually going to provide a pretty neat effect. It doesn't have to be flat on that section there. It doesn't have to be flat and uniform. It can have a slight incline toward that foot, like the body is tucked in on it, and that'll still look pretty good. So if you go a little bit deeper there than you need to, that's not going to be a bad thing, not at all. But that's looking pretty good for our depth there. I'm liking that. And you can see I've got one spot there where I did a little too deep and I got that line in there. And that's okay. It's going to heal up a little bit when we wash the carving, but I'm not too concerned with it. And the same thing over here. I'm getting better at that. That's the mistake that I made that you can see. I'm pointing it out to you right now, but it'll be all right. It's not the end of the world. We're going to be just fine. And I could try to carve that off, but I don't want to risk losing too much of that back leg, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it like it is and just say that's a happy little accident that'll just show that's made by the indigenous people of the Layton House in those little podunk towns in Missouri. All right, so let's go ahead and carve this other back leg. We're going to carve in here, and like I said, coming in straight, getting some depth in. Just going to bring that knife around and carving down into the craft mat. That way, if I lose control of the blade, it's just going to go down into the craft mat and not into my skin, because I prefer to not get cut. My wife has talked to me and told me that she prefers that I not get cut too, because she doesn't like hospital bills, apparently. I need to stop making jokes. All right. Now, because I'm right-handed, and the opposite for someone who's left-handed over here, I might want to do some paring cuts to get this in here. So I'm going to use my right thumb to press on the bottom of the carving here and dig that tip in and just come in here at an angle and see if I can pop that out. I did pretty well there. I think I got that tip right along that edge. Hopefully, we'll see. The same thing over here and just kind of chip out a lot of that wood. Now, I'm not worried about this kind of action right here. You'll see I'm doing this motion with the knife blade. I can do this as quick as I want to and not hurt myself and not cut myself, because the blade is not coming in contact with my skin because of how I'm holding it, because of how I have my fingers wrapped around it. I've gotten good at that interaction. I'm well practiced at it. And you should practice that on carvings too, because if you do practice that, this paring maneuver here becomes a really great option for you for getting a lot of wood out, and you get a whole lot of force in there. And when you're working it, it really, really makes it a lot easier to do carvings like this. So I definitely suggest that. And that left thumb here, you're keeping it out of the way and doing this maneuver with it. So that thumb is always away from the blade. And when I'm carving it just like that, I don't have it up here. I'm not trying to push my thumb into the blade. I'm pushing the carving itself and using the thumb and my clenching, the clenching motion of my hand as like the motor for that paring action. So it works pretty well. So I just got a lot of wood out like that. I can just stop cut right there to see if we can free it. There we go. Right in there. And free that out. I think I'm doing better on this side, not getting that line in there, but we shall see how she comes out in the end. Doing better. Doing better. All right, little paring cut action to bring that down. That's getting close. Let's get a little bit more in here. Oh, I missed a spot. I got a little bit too far in right there. You can see that cut, but that's okay. That's what we're trying to avoid, but it does happen. Now, these two hard corners there, those are bothering me already, and you know that we're not going to need them because you can see on the overlay that they don't have to be there. So we're going to start to take those off, those hard corners that we know we don't need. Like so. Like so. That starts us off, starts us down the path. And now we're going to work on where we can take out some of these hard edges here on the back of the head. You can see we kind of took out a little bit more coming down here on this one. So we can kind of correct that like so to make that even right there. We can take those hard corners off the back right here. We don't need those anymore. Okay. What else? We can kind of take this hard nose off right here on the front. We don't need that. It starts that shape for the head for us, just to give it a little definition. And we can start to take those rough saw marks off the top here. So I'm going to do that paring cut action as I work my way around the head and just slice that up. My knife was well stropped prior to starting this. I know some people say that you want to strop every 30 minutes. I don't agree with that. Stropping is not an every 30 minutes kind of thing. It's I strop when I feel I need to. Pay attention to your knife and learn to recognize when you need to strop. And that is probably a way better tool than using a time limit, because what I do in a 30-minute carving session and what you do in a 30-minute carving session are going to be drastically different. And if you strop too often, you may end up just rolling over your blade edge and just not having a knife that's as sharp as you want it to be because you're stropping too often. And I say it's too often in that you may be mis-stropping. And if you aren't stropping well and you're just doing it too often, well, you're more likely going to ruin, or not ruin, you're more likely going to be dulling your knife than you are anything else. So yeah, food for thought. And when you're stropping your knife, where you're not sharpening it with a strop, you are just kind of cleaning out the knife. As you carve with it, you're going to get fibers of wood stuck in the blade, and it's going to dull it up a little bit. And stropping is going to help align all of that again, because the blade on the end, on the cutting edge, is going to start to warp a little bit on you. And stropping can help to straighten that out, flatten it back out, smooth it back out as you burnish that edge a little bit with that leather. And so you're going to notice when you're carving on that end grain how shiny it is and how smooth it looks as to whether or not you've got a sharp knife. With this knife, as I do that, I can tell like it's carving that end grain well, and it's leaving a nice smooth plane there, and that's a good sharp knife. But if it's tearing, if it looks like it's got little gaps and little bumps in there, then that knife probably needs to be sharpened or stropped. So keep that in mind. Food for thought. There we go. Okay, so we got that started up just as a rough thing. He's starting to look more like the dragon we're going for right now, right? We're starting to get that general shape in there. So at this point, let's start setting in our front feet and get that set up. Now, for our front feet, we're going to come from the stomach straight down, and we want a gap here. And again, this is where you don't have to use the V-tool. I'm going to use the V-tool to show you, but you could just do a deep V-cut here with a knife. It is just significantly easier with a big V-tool. With this big V-tool, I can just start here and go down to there, okay? And then again, and just keep going deeper and deeper to make that big, deep line. And look at all that wood I've gotten built up in there right now, and I can just snap it out, okay? The V-tool is a fantastic tool. I love a V-tool. So nice. And it's got just a slight cut in there. I can just keep going deeper with a tall V-tool like this one I'm using, and just keep getting more wood out as I deepen that line. And this is so much less work than a knife is to control or get into that point. And even after we do this, we're probably still going to clean it up with a knife. As I'm talking, I didn't make that perfectly even. There's nothing wrong with that. But now that it's got all this depth in here with the V-tool, it's so much easier to come in here with a knife than it would be to get all this depth without the knife. You follow? All this depth without the knife would have been much more difficult. I'm just taking those hard corners off the feet there, carving down along the inside of that thigh to curve that edge out. And this is stuff that I would do if I didn't use the V-tool afterwards. So even with the V-tool, I'm still going to want it carving in here to open that up a bit more, you see? And just get that depth in there like so. And that is a good start for our feet. Now I'm going to go ahead and soften the outside edges of those feet. Come in like so. Take off that rough edge on the top of it. And this other foot, the same kind of way. The hard edge off the top of it. This foot's looking a bit bigger than the other one. So I can go ahead and try to fix that right now. Looks like, was it thicker left to right? I think it's thicker right there a bit. Yeah. And just look how deep that is. That V-tool really made it a lot easier for us to get a lot of depth in right there. So that worked out really well. I think that worked out fantastic. I've got so many chips on my chest right now and on my shirt. It is insane. Okay. So here's where we're going to start to get a little fancy because we want to put some neat wings on here. Okay. And these wings, they're curved and they're flowing and they're really just fantastic. And you can do that tail up like I did. You can try to have it wrap around there. I think this is probably the easiest for a lot of you. I started to do on this design the tail a bit differently off the side. If you want to try to go for that, absolutely go for that. But the one I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you how to do it straight up like that. You can see right there kind of how I went that side design a little bit on that one. I didn't want to try to do that because it takes a little too much work for a tutorial where I want to do one that's kind of a beginner plus, right? Like your first 2x2 carving kind of tutorial. I want to transition people out of doing just 1x1s and give them options for more. So we're going to do it like this right here. So we're going to figure out where the center is here. So starting down here, the 2x2 section, I'm going to kind of draw a line in the middle of the carving, like so, just to give me a point for center. And about a third of the way down here, right about there, is where the top middle portion of our wings are going to be. That little V section. You can look in the overlay right here on the left, and you can see that. And then from there, we're going to curve up and out over here. And then, let's see how high. That's about how high we want to go. It's about how high we went before. Right there, we're just going to come up here, and we're going to put it to a point, and come down and curve out. Just drawing a line down here. It doesn't have to be perfect. However you want to go, you can have it connect right to the edge of that leg, and then come right down here onto the back of the carving, right like so. Okay. So that is going to be the general shape of this wing, and this line doesn't have to be perfect for this line. It's not coming all the way to here because what we're going to do is we're going to draw a cap on there. We're going to have two lines come off of this for spines of the wing. One will come about a quarter of the way down, so 25% of the way, or not 25% of the way. We're gonna have two of them in here, so a third and a third. So yeah, a third of the way down, and then another third of the way. We'll have another one come over here, okay, and start to go up like so, like that. And that corner's a little bit hard, so we're probably going to curve that corner out a little bit more. Let's do that right now. Because that's going to be a wing. It doesn't need to be that hard of a surface. That's roughly what I'm looking for right there. Okay. So I'm going to curve that one around here, and like so. So you can see kind of what we're going for. And then from here, we're going to come down and around. Out and around. Out and around that wing like so, okay? You see how we did it there, you know? You want it to be like a circle, half circle that's been pulled slightly up. So half circle, and you grab the edge of it and pull it slightly up. So it's kind of shaped like so, coming down to here. Okay, down to here, down like so. So then that spine meets there, and that last section through here, and that'll be our dragon wing for this side. And now we're gonna do the same thing on this other side, and we're gonna try to meet them up. I'm bringing these things in here pretty deep. We can do that to hide the tail. So if you don't like this version of the tail, you can have them come in like I'm doing here and have them meet up all the way in the middle, and that tail will be kind of behind them. So if we put that tail right like so, and then that tail would come right back here, like the tail is wrapped, like the wings are wrapped around the tail as well. And so that's what we're going to go for on that. I'm going to curve this edge out. I've drawn this out once, so if you're wondering like why is he hawing a bit, I'm trying to figure out the right way of drawing it and explaining it. I did a lot of carving and designing this guy, which is probably the hardest thing I've tried to design for a tutorial so far. As I've said before, and I hope you guys understand, I am not an expert carver. I am learning, and part of the thing I'm doing here with YouTube videos is I'm using it as a learning experience for myself, and I'm trying to get better at carving and push myself, and I'm using YouTube videos to do that, because I would not have attempted a dragon yet without a YouTube video. Because I'm wanting to do a YouTube video, and I said it, I thought, man, now I gotta do a dragon, but how am I gonna do a dragon? I don't even know. And before I did this dragon, before I did this guy or that other guy, I did not think I could do a dragon. I did not think I could. I had no confidence in my abilities whatsoever. And I'm like, why on earth would I have said that? What am I doing to myself? But I did him, and I think he turned out pretty well, and I really like the design, and I'm pretty happy with it. So let's take a little bit more off that right there. And you can see that that curvature that I went for right there. It's a little bit soft here, but it gets softer as it goes up through that section. So it gets a little softer as it goes up. And then we will connect like so, that bottom portion of the wing. And then that cap, try to keep that about the same size. And then bring that first spine down, and that second spine down. And if you end them out here, like I did on this one, you can keep it open a bit more. Then you have it on this side. I'm going to go for a bit more closed, like that, coming down and in, like that. And then bring that wing around to there, and down to there. And like I didn't make those meet up the same, so let's redo that. Let's redo that. Bring that down to there. I want these to be relatively even. They don't need to be perfect, but they need to be a bit closer than what I was doing. Okay, that is better. I think it's going to work out. I don't want them to be perfect. You'll see like this side here doesn't connect all the way. That's okay. This side is going to be slightly off from that side. They're going to be wings on a live creature. I don't want them to be perfectly symmetrical. So if you're wondering like why aren't they perfectly symmetrical, look at this side too. That's not a mistake. I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing it. I'm thinking, okay, like they're not perfectly symmetrical. That's a good thing. If a dragon is here, and the dragon's not real, so it doesn't really matter. But if you watch the wings of a bird, when they pull them in on a chicken or any other kind of animal, they don't always have them perfectly the same. The feathers are going to be slightly ruffled in one direction or another, and they're not going to be exactly the same. And the wings on a dragon, although it's like a a reptilian type creature, it's going to be pretty much the same. They're not exactly going to have the same level, same spot. My arms don't automatically go to the exact same spot on each side when I'm resting, when I'm standing there. So the same thing for this dragon's wings. Don't have them perfect. Don't have them exactly symmetrical, because he's not going to be exactly symmetrical. He's a living creature. And if we're trying to make him a living creature and try to make him look alive, we don't want him to be exactly perfectly symmetrical. So there's my rant on symmetry for the dragon. Okay, so to do this, we're going to start drawing in the wings here with our knife and then cutting it in to provide a little bit of depth and a little bit of detail here. So I'm going to start here at the top here, and I'm just going to go straight in with the carving. So straight in at the surface. I'm not going to angle the knife to the left or right. I'm just coming straight in, and then I'm just going to follow this around to that point in the back of the carving right there. And let's do this side here first all the way. I'm going to carve all the way down. I'm putting that tip in a good bit there. I'm putting some depth to him. And just carve all the way down to the bottom and roll that right around to the tip of that spine right there. Okay? And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, starting at that tip, keeping that knife blade in, carve him right around and over here, right to the tip of that spine. Okay? And now we also need to do this section here. So from the middle of the back and up to that point, like so. And I'm going to wait on the inside until I get this outside done. So however you want to do it, go ahead and start carving up to that line that you drew, and then chip things out to provide that depth. Do the same thing on the other side here. And we've got a couple of spots here. I can just kind of carve around to that like this, and then stop, cut it out. Like so. Down to that tip, like that. You notice I stopped, cut past the tip right here, and come down to it. That makes it relatively easy to get depth past it for that tip. So then when I come up here, I can start right at that stop cut and carve like this as I bring it down. Pop that out. So now you can see I've got more depth up here past that tip by doing the initial stop cut past it. There we go. So, see what I'm saying? Starting to provide that. So same thing over here. I want to stop cut past it right there. Stop cut, and then a bit of pairing cut. That didn't do too bad. A little more depth. A little bit more depth. And this is an awkward angle to do a pairing cut at. So don't do it the angle I did if you don't want to. Feel around with your knife. Decide what's going to work best for you, and carve it from that direction or in that manner. I'm going to take those hard edges off. They've been bothering me for a bit. I'll do the same thing on that side here. Just going to take that right off, up into here, and then right like so to set that in a little bit more. Makes it a bit easier. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and set in the rest of this wing, like so, taking out through here. Now see, I'm splitting a little bit there. That's why it jumped out in the direction of the carving. But that's just fantastic depth. That's exactly what I'm looking for right there. Nice and clean. God, that's pretty. Okay. Same thing on the bottom here. Kind of carve up to that. Undercut that wing a bit, and you can take off that bottom corner right there. Now you could absolutely curve that tail around right here if you wanted to. You don't have to hide it back here. Curve that tail around one side or the other if you prefer that look. Make this carving your own. Make it however you want it to be. Some of you guys send me pictures of your carvings, and I look at them and I think, man, that carving is better than the one I did. And that honestly makes me pretty happy. I get excited about that. I go, look at that. That's fantastic. So I hope that you do that. Post pictures of it on Instagram, Reddit, post pictures of it over there on Facebook. I would love to see that. You know, and a bit of news for me, I just got 11,000 followers on Facebook, and that is absolutely amazing to me. I can't believe I have 11,000 followers on Facebook. So if you follow me over there, I just want to say thanks. I really appreciate it. I never thought I'd get as far in this wood carving thing as I've done, as I've gone. It has been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, and I love that you guys are all paying attention and following along with me and taking part in this journey. Just really stellar. It's fantastic, and I really appreciate it. So that's where I'm at with that. Okay, we have got the outer portion of that wing all set in now. Clean that up a little bit. And you'll notice like it kind of comes in like pretty good into that wing as it comes around there. And I like that look. I'm not opposed to that. So if you're wondering like, I don't know how that looks, it's a good effect. It provides a little shadow there and it doesn't look bad at all. Okay. Now for this hind leg here, we're gonna reset that a little bit on each side. Okay. Have it go back to behind the wing. Same thing here. Reset that a little bit. And then I'm going to curve that hard edge here. Like so. Like so. For that foot here, I'm going to angle that, take that corner off, and then hard edge off. We got some saw marks there. And take saw marks off here. We do that. Okay. Same thing on this other side. We're going to take that hard edge off. All the way up there. Take that hard corner off the front of the foot. And then take those saw marks off as well. Okay, so we should have saw marks off everywhere. There's some saw marks off here on the front of this guy here. Make sure we polish those off. And there's some saw marks in the nose. So let's take those corners off the nose here. And then we'll take that front of the nose off. And soften that hard corner on the chin. So that should be all of our saw marks, with the exception of a small part on the back. Double check here. We got a little bit of saw marks right there. Okay, a little bit right here as well. Now, why am I spending all this time getting rid of saw marks? That's because saw marks take paint and stain differently. I don't want to have them influencing the way our carving looks in one little tiny spot as opposed to the rest of it. I want to make this carving look as good as I can. Take those hard lines off like that, those legs too. Okay, so there we go. I like that. I don't like the way those hard lines are right now, so we're going to shape those off real quick. Take a look at that. There we go. He's really starting to look pretty good. He's starting to get a lot of that shape there that we wanted to. I'm liking the way he's coming along. So let's work on the back of the wings here, because this can be difficult. Now, we can absolutely leave more room in here. Bring those things out if you want to have that tail out larger. Like I said, or you could do the tail differently. If you had wanted to, you could curve it around the back of him like that. That's an option that you can do. I'm going to have it, try to be simple and have it right there back in the back. And yeah. Now to do this, we're going to be doing the same thing we did the other ones. We're just going to follow this line and carve in and kind of draw it in for each side. And then we're going to carve up into it and take that portion out. So we're just going to start at the top here and carve over and around like so, okay? And then it's pretty simple just to take that out like so. That's all we're doing. We're putting little half circles in kind of, and then carving them out towards that middle portion, okay? We'll do the same thing over here, over and down, and carve that out as well. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Like so. And we're going to do the other side here on the left. I don't want to do that. We're going to set it on the other side the same way we did this side here. I'm just going to redraw this because I can't really see my lines very well. Kind of like little hearts here, it's looking like, huh? Little hearts coming down like so. We're going to use the knife and going straight in and just curve that cut. Try to get right back in the same spot. Around and back over like so. And then carve it out. There we go. Same thing here. Curving and around and down like so. And carve that out. And snap that out if you can. So we're starting to get those, that done pretty good. It's starting to look good. Let's do the same thing. Come right handed and start from the bottom on this side. Curving around and in like so. And right up to it like that. Okay, now for that tail, we can curve that tail up and we can carve it straight down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line down to that and then right beneath it, down to there, right beneath that, down to there. Same thing with the other side, down, and then down, and down, okay? And then I'm just going to be carving out to that edge along the inside there. Just redoing the stop cuts, trying to make sure it goes all the way down to that bottom edge there. And then kind of take that out and chop it out. Same thing, come in like so, and down like so. Up along the inside, up along the inside, chip it out. So we're defining that tail in there underneath the wings. And I like the look of that, like I said. If you don't like the look of it, do it differently. I keep mentioning that because I feel like it's going to be a point of contention. Just like with the legs on this dragon, having 4 legs, there is, in the fantasy community, as some of you may know, a lot of discussion about what is or is not a dragon based on how many legs it has. And so 4 legs here are on this thing, so I can say that yes, it is indeed a dragon, even by the strictest definition of the word. Although someone's probably going to say something about the way they do the face, or that's a drake, not a dragon. Well, calm down. You've never seen a real-life dragon, and neither have I. We're making this stuff up. Alrighty, we got that done. Let's go ahead and round that off as we come down here. Like so. We're going to V-cut the edge of that wing into the tail. And then I'm going to round off the bottom of that tail. So it's like coming out and up, and then finish rounding off those outer edges like so. Now we still got those saw marks in there. We could have taken those off earlier. I didn't, and I probably should have. So I can use this flat tool here to try to take the saw marks off that middle section. So to round out these wings, this is where we're going to start to use other tools. This is where it's real easy to do if you use your gouge, like this number 8 that I have. But you can also use a knife. So I want to show you how you can use a thin detail knife to do this, okay? This is the Badger State Blade 1.5" detail knife. I really like their detail knife. It's a little bit of a thicker spine, which works really great for these types of maneuvers. So you see we got our lines here. I'm going to redraw these lines a bit to make sure that they're clear and easy to see. And they come right down to those points, okay? So basically inside of that section here and this section here and this section here, we want to round it out. So I'm going to go kind of in and out and just scoop wood. And you can start to see right here that I'm starting to belly that out just a bit. Okay? It's nothing crazy. It's just a slight bellowing out. Look at that light just right. You can see it right there, yeah. Do the same thing over here. And just in and out. And if that didn't work from that direction, because the wood grain, go the other direction. Figure out what works, what doesn't, and you can use a little detail knife to do this just fine. Now, if you don't want to use a detail knife, you can use this number 8. And this is just a lot easier to do it. You see, I can just put that curved line right here and easily follow it right up to here. Now for this corner piece we got right here, what we're going to do is we're going to set that in with a little V-cut. Like that. I'm going to set the other one in right now while I'm thinking about it. Because I can. Because I can. Alright, and then we're going to use this number 8 to finish that middle one up. Right up to it. Right up to it. You can see that channel it creates. Okay. The nice thing about these things is you can just widen out a channel by moving this thing over a little bit left. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, right? The profile for these things is like a U, okay? Or that's how number 8 is, right? For this one here. But let's say I want to carve out a wider channel. Well, I just do the U here, and then here, and then here, and so on and so forth as I fill up that channel to carve it out. And you can kind of smooth it out, and it just allows you to create that wider channel, wider or thinner, depending on what it is that you need. And we can leave those little spines out and start to just, get that just so, however we want. So having a gouge in your carver's tool chest is definitely a fantastic thing. I highly suggest that you get one. You can use it for texturing and for doing all kinds of crazy fun things. And dragon wings is just one of the myriad of ways you can put one to use. And just add a little texture to your carving. Alrighty, let's do the other side here. Same thing. And just provide that channel on up to that piece. And same thing here. This wider section, it may be easier too just to grab your Badger State knife and do it for some of it with a knife. And if that's easier, absolutely grab the knife. And then as you get it done, you can bring it right up. Whatever you think works for you, that's what you should do. like so. That's really starting to look good. We're defining those ridges by not carving on them. That's the point where we don't carve. And that's what's setting those ridges in and making them look defined, is the absence of blade and knife work on them. You see over here, I'm just kind of like carving right along that ridge as I get over to there to travel up. And I can widen that out, carving multiple times through here to wallow out this portion of the wing. Try carving from multiple directions too. You never know which one's going to work for the way your wood grain falls. The nice thing is too, like the texture I got here, it can provide a little texture to this dragon wings too, and that you may like, or you may not. If you don't, take the knife to it, like this right here, and just smooth it out a little bit. Don't drop your carving. There we go. Absolutely fantastic. Another knife that does well for these types of smooth carvings, just to give you another example, is an upsweep blade. And this is a Beckwith Forge upsweep blade. It's pretty thin too, but upsweeps lend themselves really well to the curved carvings. And like Alan Goodman makes a kukri knife, like a kukri shape that does pretty well. So just showing you what options you have. This section here is rather difficult because of where the grain goes, but you've got all kinds of options for knives out there. Yeah, I think those wings are looking really good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take off all those hard outer edges. Try to soften this out, clean up our edges on the wings. Define the rest of that line around that outside cap on the wings. And then take that hard edge off right through here. Like so. Do the same thing on the other side here. Trying to bite in a little bit too hard there, so I need to come from the other direction. There we go. That allows me to just barely take anything off. I don't want to take much off. I just want to soften it. Yeah, soften that hard line. That looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Okay. We have got those wings looking just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Tell me how good those wings look for dragon wings. I think they look pretty good. Okay. So we've made ourselves a hot mess of wood chips. We've got that looking pretty good. Now let's talk about dragon heads, okay? I kind of went with two styles for these guys. This is more of a like a How I Met Your Dragon type dragon head. Maybe it's a little toothless there, right? And this is a bit thicker, kind of like you might see a Drake in like Kingdoms of Amalur, like the video game back in the day. I think that's the one. But different styles of head. This is a bit simpler, and this is a bit more difficult. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take that number 8, and I'm going to start to put a little bit of a ridge down the middle of the head here, and just kind of start to carve that out right here. And it doesn't have to be crazy deep at first. You take out a little bit of time and just start carving a channel, basically. And if it doesn't work one way, try carving the other direction. That's easier for you. Keep your fingers out of the way, that we don't carve into them. Okay. And what we want to do is put a little curve to the top of that and have that little channel running down the middle. So you can start by taking that down first if you'd like to, which I think we probably should have started that first. So let's do that now. Just bringing that incline down here. We're working on ingrain. And like I said before, ingrain can be rather hard. So I'm just taking off a little bit on the right side here, that paring cut. A little bit on the left side. Curving that in. Okay. Trying a couple planes. Like so. See what we're going for there. And now I'm going to work on that center channel again. And this channel can be the width of whatever tool you're using. If you're using a number 11, a 1/4 inch, make it the width of a number 11, a 1/4 inch. And it doesn't have to be the 1/4 inch number 8 that I'm using. It can be whatever it is you got. It can be a 1/2 inch if you want it to be a 1/2 inch. Just be a different shaped head. Thin out those top lines a bit. Okay, now we're going to put a V cut in right here so we can get the shape of those ears in a little bit. So start to V shape that, work that in, work that back. Start to round it over a little bit to one side. So I come in a bit more of an angle here and come in. Same thing here. I'll come in a bit of an angle and then come in. Start to curve, or bring those corners back in too. Come a bit more of an angle and then work that in, working it left and right if you need to bring that in. We got a bit of an angle on those. Now I'm going to do a V cut right here in the middle between the head. Try to start taking out some depth between those two. Go back and forth from left to right, taking out a little bit of time. A little bit of time to get that depth in how I want it. I don't like the way I'm doing there because that's going to wind up getting me cut if I lose control of it. So I'm going the other direction here, like so. Take that hard line off and take this hard line off. And that's looking fantastic. Now we got that number 8. Let's carve a little trench into this thing here. Right like so. And then snap that out. Get a definition for that ear. And this doesn't have to be an ear, it could be horns if you want to. It could be like what kind of thing you want to go for. I like that. Smooth out a little bit. Take those hard edges off. Okay. Now for the brow ridge right here, we got 2 ridges on the left and right side here. I'm going to put some hash marks in there. A V cut, V cut, V cut. Same thing that side. Like so. It gives us some more detail for a brow ridge. Now I'm going to do a little swooping action right here, just like we did in the dragon's wings. With that rough out knife, try to make a plane there. And we can put our eyes in. For the jawline, we're going to start here at the base of the ear and come down, and then bring it right around the front, and then back over, curling up to the base of that ear. Now we're going to carve that out, coming straight in, and we're going to cut up to it to take out beneath it. Carving down, and then around. Like so. Be very careful not to chip off too much. Like that. We don't want to define like real deep here. We're just going for a little bit. The more you define though, this is where you're going to put your emotion in. You can make him look really derpy if you want to have a derpy dragon. By bringing that bottom jaw in and it'll look kind of derpy. You can change the angle of the mouth to make him look a little angry. You can do all kinds of things to add or remove emotion just by how you put in this jaw. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. Take a look at it. What emotion does he have? And what is it that's giving him that emotion? Change it up. If you want some reference material, look up the movie How to Train Your Dragon. Look up images from that. They put a lot of emotions into the faces of those dragons. If you're looking to figure out how to put emotion in that, those folks have already thought that through, and they did pretty well. So if that's what you're wanting to do, if you're thinking about that, something you can use as a resource. But this guy is looking really good. Really good right now. So for right here, we're just going to draw a circle on that plane. And that's going to be our eye. The other side in about the same place, right like so. Okay? And now we're just going to barely go in here. I'm not going very deep at all. And just trace that circle out. Again, I am not going in very deep. You see that there? I'm just barely putting that tip in there. Ever so slight. All the way around, like so. And then I'm not going to carve out the whole center. I'm just going to carve out a little bit around that outside edge. You see just that little chip I'm pulling out? All the way around. All the way around. And then if you need to, if it's looking really rough, come in from the other direction and soften the outside line of that eye. If you feel like you need to. If it looks good already, leave it. I love a good stiff bristle brush for getting in there to catch any fuzzies. Okay, so you can look at that. He's looking like he's got some emotion. I'm going to take that hard edge off the nose here and there, I think, as well as the front. Yeah, liking that. I'm liking that a lot. Okay. Carving that around. Like so. That's a little bit deeper than I want to be comparable to the other side. That's okay. Maybe you like it deeper. If you like it to be a little bit deeper, leave it a little bit deeper. I like the fact I did both of them a little bit different, because then you can see what your options are. Let's get that a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so we've got some good detail there. I think I want to back cut the top of this a little bit here. Like that. I like that a bit. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot. Okay, let us undercut the front of this mouth a bit. If you want to, you can put some fangs coming out from underneath here. You can define those into the bottom jaw right here. So you can put like a big fang by a V-cut, and then cut up to it to bring that jaw in a bit around it. That would look pretty good if you wanted to. Let's work on the ridges here on the front of the chest. Where's that pencil at? So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here from this line and just carve down to right here, the middle where the feet just start. Okay, like so. We're going to cut this line out here, kind of V-cut from each side, and then we're going to cut some ridges out. So I'm not going to go crazy deep. I'm going to set this down here, and I'm going to carve on the table. And just carve down into that middle section. Same thing the other side, down into that middle section. And then we're going to carve at an angle, 45-degree angle, into that line as we carve up. Like so. Then we got the same thing on the other side here. Bit of a 45-degree angle into it. All the way up. Like so. And now we're going to do the same thing. If you hear any noises next to me, that's my wife. She's in the room making all these noises and laughing at me while I try to record a video. It takes a lot of patience to be married to someone who's trying to make YouTube videos as a hobby, because I keep asking my family to be quiet on days when I want to record. I'm like, hey, can you guys do this quietly? Can you do that quietly while I record a video? And it's just, it takes a lot of patience to deal with me while I do this. So I want to make sure I express that to you guys, because I'm always expressing my thanks to them for doing that for me. All right, so there we go. We got a V cut in here on each side. You can see kind of what we went for, right? And that, because we don't want this to be set in further, it's kind of like just delineate a line between the two sections that are at the same depth. Now we're going to just put in little ridges like so, kind of like the underbelly of a snake, right? Kind of up a little bit higher on the sides, coming across, and just kind of make them the same spacing apart, maybe getting a little bit less as you get further down, like so. And then same thing, we're just going to cut right across here, and then we're going to cut the opposite direction a bit. Like so. And maybe we can just cut it like this, where a V cut and a V cut, and then a V cut. Is that easier? I don't know that it's easier. It's a different way of cutting it. But I don't know that it's easier. I think that I like the draw cut, and then a stop cut, maybe. No, I just didn't quite cut all the way across. Yep. So even right now, I'm still trying to figure out the best way of doing this. I'm probably going to wind up doing more dragons, because I really like this design. I think he turned out absolutely wonderful. I think at some point I'm going to do a chess set too, and I think that he may wind up being a chess piece for said chess set. I'm going to do a fantasy chess set at some point. I think he'd really make a really great like dragons on one side. Maybe like he could be a king, you know, or a rook. Yeah, I think that'd be really fantastic. Fantastic chess piece. And if you don't know, I do plan on doing a chess set tutorial series. We're going to do a 1x1 chess set. I just got a chessboard that I plan on using and working on coming up with designs. If you see, follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen some little 2-inch tall 1x1s I've done recently. And a little sneak peek of those guys are like this little fella here, right? He's going to be a chess piece. Or this little knight here, right? So we're going to do a series of chess set pieces. And like compared to that dragon, that's a big difference, isn't it? Like, look at that. Right here. Look at that. Isn't that a big difference? That's fun. Anyway, just a little sneak peek, something to talk about. Anyway, all right, so we got our wings done. We got our head done. We got our ridges in there. I think that we're pretty good. We need to put in some claw hashes. So let's put in 2 hash marks on the top of the feet here. You can do that with V-cuts, or you can grab your V-tool and just like so. So V-tool is, again, probably the easier way to do it. Just put in a couple hashes like so to delineate those feet. If you want to, you can come in here and clean up some harder lines like so. And you can do all kinds of work in here to clean things up and make it look a little bit better or a little bit more the way you want to. If you want to try to add scales, you could try to add scales to him. What else could you do? You can do all kinds of things. All kinds of things. You could thin out this neck a bit more if you wanted to by bringing it in like this. Like that right there. Depending on what you thought looked good, you know. So if you don't want a big thick neck like we originally did here, just do that right there and you can thin that neck out even more. And that looks pretty good. But outside of that, I think this is, I think we're going to call him good. I think I'm going to take him to the sink. I think that I'm going to wash him up. And then you'll get to see what he looks like through the magic of editing. All painted up and completed. And we can clean up this corner here, inside of here, because that's not going to clean up with water. That is just need to be cleaned up with a knife a bit. So that looks good. And take your time to clean this guy up before you move on. Get it cleaned up right so that you can be proud of your piece. There we go. That's much better. Much better. Yeah, okay, so he can be cleaned up, and I'm going to come back and you can see what it looks like all brushed up and soaped up and washed up in 3, 2, 1, all washed up. Now that was 2 to 3 minutes under the sink with lukewarm water and a little bit of dish soap to clean him up, whatnot. He is looking absolutely fantastic. I really like the way he turned out. And we're going to paint him up next. So, there's going to be 2 ways of finishing him. This is black walnut Danish oil and paste finishing wax. And that's one way of finishing him up. I've got a video on the channel called How to Apply Danish Oil and Wax. If you like this look, watch that video. You'll see exactly how I do it. I washed this carving up too, but I let him dry afterwards for 24 hours before applying the Danish oil, because otherwise the finish comes out looking a lot lighter. So an example of that is in these 3 carvings here. 2 of them I did an hour after washing. That's the Knight and the Wizard, and they look considerably lighter than the Ranger, who I waited the next day. Okay, so if you do Danish oil pretty quickly after washing, this could be very, very light compared to how dark this guy is. I like the darker, especially for this dragon. That end grain really soaks up the Danish oil, so keep that in mind. If you're looking to do Danish oil, let him dry for 24 hours before you do that, and he should turn out pretty nice. But for painting, after I wash him, I'm going to paint him up right now. So if you watch the painting video next, you're going to see him looking very much like he does right now as we start the painting process. Roar! Roar! And there we go. We got our dragons all carved and they turned out fantastic. If you want to see the painting video, I got a painting video on the channel where we can go over that and you can find that next. It'll be in the end of this video in the doobly-doo that pops up on the screen, so you'll be able to click that link as well. Outside of that, head over to Instagram, give me a follow over there, and you can see things like the dragons design I was working on here this week prior to this. So you knew it would be coming up if you were following me on Instagram and you've been prepared and had your 2x2 ready. Outside of that, though, if you would like to get some new carving shirts, I got some new carving shirts. This is my carving shirt over on the website, and it's got the emblem right there on the side. I really like these ones. I think I'm going to order a couple more. The stickers are no longer going to be available on Etsy. I'm going to have new stickers up on the website here relatively soon. I've got some new designs, and some of the old ones are going to be returning, but not all of them. So Etsy will now just be for carving, because I'm selling to people to try to get wood carving money, and the website will be where all the merch is. So if you're looking for that stuff, that's where it's going to be at. Outside of that, I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much for following along and for carving with me and for the comments and for all of that. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time.